Hello, this is Douglas Robinson. I am a solutions consultant with Beyond 20, and today I'm going to be showing you how to step through a list of items in a text field using a step through collection action by transforming that text into an XML collection. Now what that means is we have a list of items. Here as an example, I've just thrown these items into my description field as opposed to creating a separate field for them and actually going into something very complex. But we have a list of items that are comma separated in a field or within a field between some other items, but the end result is that we can narrow down using either a field or a modifier on another field to this data right here, where we have a couple of items that are separated by commas. And what we want to do with that is we want to perform some kind of action against that comma separated list. And if we open up a one-step, we don't really have a way to do that. Like there's no item within a one-step that lets us just step through different items in a list of text items off on the left-hand side. However, on version 8.0, we added a new item called the step through collection. Now it's not immediately clear what this does, but I can tell you that this item is used to step through a collection of elements in an XML table, or an XML collection, I guess is what it's called. And what we do here is we identify a collection to step through, and then when we do so, we can actually drill down into this item, and we have the option then to perform some kind of action with the XML that's returned for each item. So if I open up Notepad, the example I'm going to be working with here today is going to be an XML table. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw in a tag for a table, and then in it I'm going to include a couple of items. And then I'm going to close my table. So this is an XML collection. You have an XML element that has many different child elements in it, and this is what we're going to convert our comma separated values into. Now to get to this format where we can step through the children of this XML collection and perform some kind of action against them, we need to modify the data in our field, which right now is just test1, test2, test3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place a update a variable or stored value action here. I'm just going to name it initialize XML. Give the variable a name of XML data. And here I'm going to actually start building out my table. So I'm going to put in a starting table tag and then an item tag. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to include the token that's going to have that data in it, which in this case is going to be our short description. And then I'll close an item tag, and then I'll close our table. You might be asking, why did I put a start and end tag for item around our short description? And the answer to that is actually kind of tricky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace the commas in my comma separated list for description with end and start tags for this item. So I'll go ahead and select replace. I'm going to be replacing any of the commas with an end tag for item and then a start tag for item. What this means is that when we go into this variable that's going to have this mock-up XML table in it, we're putting in the word table and then a tag for item, and then anytime we reach a comma, we end that item tag, which separates whatever item or whatever value is before that comma into its own child in that XML table that we're creating. And then we put a start tag for the next one, and every comma that we reach in this field will be treated that way until we reach the end. And then we have an end tag there so that once we've reached the end, we close off that last item and then we end our mockup XML collection or XML table. Now I'm going to set my data type to XML collection. And now I have an XML collection labeled table with a collection of items. Now when we go into our step through collection, we have an item variable name. This is going to be a variable that's going to hold the XML for the current item in the list. So when we do that, every time we get into one of these items, we'll see the start tag all the way through to the end tag. So I'm going to put this variable as current item. I'm going to label this action step through items. And then our collection to step through has to be an XML collection. And since I have an XML data variable that is of type XML collection, I can just paste that in right here. If you had some other items that you needed to work on as far as like drilling into different elements within a collection or some other fancy XML modifiers that you needed, you could place some modifiers on your token that you put in the collection to step through to narrow it down. Let's say you're doing this with a much larger XML table. You could work on it that way, but here we're just going to be doing our single XML data variable. Now that I've drilled down into this step through collection action, I can now start working with the items that are in my list. So let's say I want to create a pop-up every time that I reach one of these items. All I have to do is do a show a pop-up action. And in that pop-up, I'm going to include the variable current item. Now this is actually going to show this item with the start and end XML tags in it. If we want to remove those, because we're going to be doing something else with this data, then we would paste in our current item token, and then we're going to perform a text modifier on it. Now for this ad hoc table that I've created, all we need to do is we'll remove whatever that starting modifier is that it suggests for us so that we can get back to normal text modifiers, because since this is the result of an XML collection action, it tries to give us XML modifiers when we first drill into it. So we'll just remove that first one, create a new one, and we'll get back to their standards set of modifiers. And then here we just want the text between the start and end tags in our list or our current item. So I'm going to say I want the text that follows after our item start tag. And that comes before the end of our item tag. And that's it. I now have a pop-up that will show me every item in an ad hoc XML collection. So we can see here the test1 text, and then we can actually see the whole thing with the XML around it. Close this, we'll get the next one, and then the next one. And using this format, you can actually do a couple of other things. If you needed to, you could use this to create a couple of child records, such as, I'll give you an example of, let's say, a journal with some text in it, or you could do tasks or any number of other things. It's really going to be up to you. So if we wanted to create a journal note as an example, then we would just paste in the details of our variable into that journal note. And like I said, I want to get the text within the start and end tag, so I'm just going to grab the text between the start and the end of that tag. I'm going to go ahead and remove my pop-up action because I'm doing something else now. And when I run this, I can see different journals getting created for each item in my comma-separated list. Now obviously you're probably going to be doing this with a field other than short description, but this should work in many different scenarios. You may have some trouble if you're doing this within a rich text field because it will try to paste the rich text into your variable that holds the little ad hoc XML table that you're building. But this should be a neat tool for any situations where you need to step through a list of items that you have that are separated by commas, or really any other identifiable piece of text that you can use in a find and replace modifier. Thanks for watching this video. If you'd like to see other videos like this one, feel free to check out our YouTube channel at youtube.com/beyond20llc.